At 40 feet above a black ocean, 2 pilots flew blind, their jets skimming the waves in a high, stakes gamble to sink a warship before their fuel ran out. On that ship, a commander and his crew fought back with failing equipment and sheer will. This is the Minute by Minute story of how technology, courage, and pure chance collided in the Gulf of Karsis. 3:14 local, Gulf of Karsis, operating in the Urbai, in sea, 42 nautical miles off Redland's basalt coast. Maya Lark Rise, a sharp-witted white American pilot, is at 40 feet above the water. Her altimeter trembles with the chop. No climb. She has 1 anti-ship shot left per jet. Fuel window is tight. If they miss, they won't have the gas to circle. Atlas, Lark, feet wet. Silent two-ship, Maya Rise keeps her voice flat. Her call sign is Lark. Her hands are steady, thumbs brushing the weapon station select as the Super Hornet rides its own pressure wave. Spray fingers across her canopy like scattered rain. Rook is 300 meters off her right wing at the same height, a silver shadow in the night. Lieutenant Jason Rook Ellwood, a focused white American pilot, breathes through clenched teeth, 40 feet, visual on you, no climb. Ahead and far beyond the black horizon, a Redland frigate pushes east at 15 knots. On her bridge, the watch treats midnight like any other hour. On her deck, the helo is out. Above, a low marine layer scatters ship lights into fuzzed halos. Every moving part matters. And not all of them will spin when needed. 3:16 Combat Information Center, RNS Voran. The room is red, lit, humming. Screens breathe in green. Commander Idris Halem, a commanding black American officer, stands hands behind his back, eyes on the primary scope. What does the sea give us? It gives us clutter, Layla Saig says. Weapons officer, a precise white woman of Middle Eastern heritage. Voice precise. Falcon eye on medium pulse, surface ducting at 300 meters, contacts intermittent. Picket corvette holds south by 10 miles. Our helicopter is off the port quarter returning. C-29 at 3 miles, Angels 2, he nods, defenses. Sentinel, 32 vertical launchers are green, 2 fire control channels hot. Shield, 30 forward CIWS in standby, aft CIWS in washdown, 5 minutes to ready. Tiger 4 Illuminator has a reboot delay if we drop power, do not drop power. Hallam's eyes stay flat. Row, Captain, we are in Corridor Bravo. Merchant shipping to east. She glances at an ice-like overlay. Neutrals in area. We need positive hostile ID for missile release. Understood. Keep the radar alive, but do not chatter. Emit on schedule only. I don't want to paint a lighthouse. 3:18. 40 feet above the Gulf, 2 Hornets cut the night. No climb, no lights, no words unless they matter. They run inside the radar horizon like the ocean is a roof. Lark keeps them tucked under the math, with the frigate's array at 12 meters above the water and her jets at 12 mutual line. Of sight barely breaks 15 nautical miles. Stay lower than that, stay unseen, fuel bites at the back of her mind. Joker 3-9, Bingo 2-8. Her kneeboard is scribbled with Arcturisms, weapons envelopes, pieces of a geometry that has to click. Each jet carries 2 Agamedi, 4 set to skim at 5 meters, seekers cold until the last 10 miles. They also have a single airgam each on a plan that relies on human nerves. Make the ship keep its radars off, then hurt it when it turns them back on. At 30 miles, she calls it. Lark push south 10. We drift under their picket. Her Reed shows a ghost triangle picket to their left, bringing its own radar cones. They slide like knife blades between. Pattern interrupt. New constraint appears. The sea picks up. Swell height jumps. Radar altimeters jitter. At 40 feet, a bad reading can slam a jet into a wave. Lark flicks to radio alt-hold, then back to manual. Crosscheck and Barrow, cross-checked, Rook answers, no climb, Atlas, Lark, 27 miles to target area, deck is jittery, pickets silent, no early emit, 3:20. Voran's kike, Saig watches the telltales. Falcon, I update, surface ducting persists. We have low altitude shadow at 15 miles. If they are out there, we won't see them until they are almost on us. Halem glances toward the bridge repeater, helicopter, C-20. 9 on bearing 1, 9 3 miles descending, spotting beacon is hot, she hesitates. Sir, we need him on deck. If he hangs there, he blocks our shots low. Bring him in. Engineering, bring the aft CIWS to ready as soon as washdown is done. I want both arcs. Engineering copies, 5 minutes to dry and test. Halem shifts to a quiet frequency with the bridge. We will be targeted through the noise. We will not flinch. Keep bearings clear. Do not mask the forward arcs. 322. The invisible approach. The jets eat distance. 20. 2 miles. 20. A ghost voice tickles Lark's headset from far above the weather. A controller she can't see. Picture unknown. Voran is primary. Merchant traffic southeast. Row. Weapons free on declared hostile only. Watch for helo glow near the target. Copy, Lark says. She cracks her neck. Rook, playbook is as briefed. We hold the harm until they light. We ripple harpoons on a straight line to gate their countermeasures. Program for staggered seekers. 10 seconds between. Aim points. Forward of Vuls. Rook copies. Left harpoon seeker cold. Right harpoon post. He taps the buttons. Seeker timers start crawling down. Planning to wake up when their own math says they are close enough to see a ship. 17 miles. The picket's mast looms somewhere to their left. Lark can feel it like a scratch on her skin. She bites off a thought about her daughter's drawing on her locker back on the carrier. It's a bad time to be human. It's always a bad time to be human. Pattern interrupt. Geography flips. A neutral container ship crosses the line. Fire in the far east. Slow, oblivious. If the frigate fires along, range SAM straight ahead, they risk the neutral. If the Hornets shoot too early and a harpoon sees the big neutral and locks, they own it. Lark pushes a breath out. Rook, delay seekers, 8 seconds later, 8 later, copy, 324, Voran's kike. Saeg's scalp tingles, the ESM spikes, horizon, 6 reports a faint emission broadband noise south-southwest, transient, could be towed decoy, could be sea, it's nothing fixed, don't chase ghosts. Halem says, helicopter on deck in 1. The helmsman calls a course change. The frigate cants 10 degrees to port to open arcs to the south. On another scope, the merchant ship glides as a blue rectangle. Saeg swallows, neutrals east bearing. If we fire within that sector, we risk overflight. We will not keep our shots clear, keep a short chain, 325, first decision point. Lark's Argem pages show zeros. No emit to pull on, that's good. That's bad. Without emits, Argem will go to last known coordinates and hurt whatever radar tries to come alive mid-flight, but it's blind to silence. The harpoons are the heart of this. Range 16. Rook's voice is a whisper now. Waves glint like sheet metal under the half-moon. They are in the band where the math breaks both ways. If the frigate radar rises, it will catch them soon enough to hurt. If it stays dark, it might never have enough time to present a clean shot on incoming missiles. Lark admit angels, 10 feet cushion. Rook asks. Negative, no climb. If we blip, we paint ourselves. She feels the weight of the rail. This is the lane. Commit. They throttle up. Engines gulp air and spray. 13 miles. Lark's left thumb flips the weapons selector to harpoon. Atlas, Lark. 2 bruisers ready. First ripple on my mark. Atlas copies. Pattern interrupt. In needle flickers. Rook's weapon page throws a caution. Right harpoon seeker bit fail. Built-in test. The missile's tiny brain reports it can't see the world properly. Rook swears under his breath. Correction seeker fail. Right store only. Left is good. I have 1 reliable shot. 1 is enough, Lark says, and believes it because she has to. I have 2, we will bracket. 326 into visual range. For a breath, the fog thins and the world becomes a black cutout. RNS Voran is a low-gray beast with white winks of navigation lights and the pale box of her hangar aft. Lark sees her as a shape against the darker sea. Mast radome, a white-lettered nameplate she can't read. On the Voran, a lookout shouts before any scope confirms it. Low glint, south, low, low. Saeg's hand already hovers over a cover. Her thumb flips, sentinel. 30, 2 cells hot. Tiger, 4 ready to illuminate on designate. Halem breathes out. Worn-off helicopter clear the air. He hears the whine through the deck as the helo's rotors wind down. A green chocks in light blips on his panel. Helo secure. 327. First strike attempt. Mark. Lark's cages drop. 2 harpoons drop away and light their motors, vanishing forward into the night at wave height. Rook's good left missile kicks. A white spear at 5 meters over the chop. His bad right stays stuck under his wing like a sulking child. It's a hung store now, adding drag and 1 more thing to think about. 3 away, Lark says, seeker wake in 45 seconds. Rook, 1 away, 1 hung, the missiles skim. Their radar altimeters ride steel, smooth at 5 meters, trusting the ocean's uneven mirror. Their seekers remain asleep, saving their eyes until they can paralyze themselves with too much water. On Voran, CIWS sees it. 3 skin, paint contacts where there should be none. High-speed cease, skimmers bearing 187, range 12 nautical miles, 3, windows to impact 40 seconds, confirm. Halem says, but his voice is already changing shape, getting thinner and faster. Engage, chaff program Bravo, decoys ready, Sentinel, 30 to minimum engagement range 2 nautical miles, CIWS says. We have shot now under illumination, but watch the neutral at east. She thumbs the selector, Tiger 4, paint sector south, pattern interrupt. CIWS screen hiccups. The Tiger 4 fire control radar makes a cough sound, a power spike that trips a breaker. The dish stops, then shutters, fire control offline, reboot in 25 seconds. Then we will shoot blind, Halem says, but he can't. The medium range missiles need that illuminator to feed them mid-course radar updates. Keep your decoys, prep CIWS, forward shield, 30 to ready, aft 5 minutes, the timer grudges. Chaff tubes ready. Halem sees the neutral ship on the east. He adjusts course again to carve a clean corridor south. It buys him time and angle. It gives the enemy a straight line in. 3:28. The harpoons wake up at 8 miles. Their seekers open their eyes. They see ocean and more ocean, then a white rectangle of ship against a darker seam. They lock. They pop chaff checks against their own programming and like what they see anyway. They home, CIWS calls ranges like the beads of a rosary, 8 miles, 7, chaff now, tubes crack and throw silver in slow billows. A radar decoy boy launches off port and starts singing in span, a new target for stupid seekers. Another decoy launches to starboard, then hiccups, fails to transmit, and becomes just another piece of trash rolling in the lee. Pattern interrupt, the seafloor throws an ugly refraction up into the radar picture. Clutter blooms. For a moment, Falcon Eye blanks out the low angle like there's a wall. Radar dropout in low sector, CIWS snaps. You see some bearings, helm, minor starboard, Halem orders, his brain doing geometry without permission. Present the bow to narrow target, cut a skin cross, section to small, buy more seconds, 3:28:30, CIWS forward wakes up with a whine. The shield, 30's barrel pack starts to spin. Its dedicated search radar barks a little cone into the night, catching 1 harpoon in that flashlight. It slews and chatters, tungsten storms the night. A wind of metal touches the first missile and it breaks like a toy, flipping into a violent splash short of the ship. A geyser climbs white, hit 1, CIWS calls, 2 remaining, range 3 miles, time to impact 18 seconds. Rook watches the left edge of his vision. Harpoon wakes track on his own page. Lark keeps her drive steady. Hold our gem. If they light a second radar, you kill it. Copy, Rook says, sweat in his eyes. The second harpoon threads through chaff that looks enough like a ship to doubt. It wobbles. It chooses wrong for a heartbeat and chases the bright chaff cloud. It loses signal, then regains, then loses, and the range runs while it thinks. It dives into the chaff cloud and punctures water a quarter-mile off the ship. Its fuse hasn't armed yet. The arming distance is 800 meters from waterline. It detonates late, deep, a muted white boom that hammers the hull like a hand through mattress. Relief whistles in CIWS' head and then stops because there is still one, the third harpoon never doubted. It knifes through spray at 95% of the speed of sound, eye locked on the vertical launch deck like it's looking for the center of a bullseye. Range 1.6 miles, CIWS says. CIWS forward track, engage, shield. 30 gulps, slews. The inner magazine feed screams. The gun speaks, and a rectangle of sea between ship and missile dances. Pattern interrupt, the gun chokes. It is a mechanical hiccup, a feed belt skewing a half tooth on a salted roller. An amber jam light flares dead center on the control. Gun jam feed, manual clear required. A tech barks. Aft CIWS, Halem's tongue is dry. Not ready, 30 seconds, too late. Halem turns his head. It is a stupid human move, and it changes nothing. He sees the harpoon come over the bow starboard. Its angle is 5 degrees too high for the deck. He He can see he could survive it if it hits the flare of the bow plating. He knows it will not. 3:28:40:9 impact. The missile slaps the starboard forward deck just ahead of the Vulse. It hammers steel downwards, drilling, and the warhead goes off in the dural belly. The shock rises and lifts the ship. Light goes white for a heartbeat in the kike, then pink. The world goes full of alarms, comms crackle, then static. Rex sneeze sparks. Sayeg's console recycles, screens blinking that BIOS color that no sailor loves. The Tiger IV fire control radar spins to a stop on its dish, halfway through a reboot. Halem catches himself on the plot table. He counts breaths without wanting to. Report, he says, and nobody hears. He swallows the copper taste and shouts. Report, forward magazine sealed, no blow. Through, damage control yells over a line that squeals in his ear. Port list 2 degrees, fire on foredeck. All stations answering, engineering reports main plant green. Aux power, we lost a bus. Get hoses forward, seal the Vulse if any hatch is cracked, flood compartments if hot. He looks to Sayeg. She is already grabbing the CIWS panel with both hands, kicking its housing with her boot to jolt the jam free. Another sailor digs into the feed with a pry bar. Tiger, 4 status, reboot 18 seconds, give it 10, 3, 29. Evacuation is a word far ahead of them. Right now, it is duty. On deck, men in flash hoods drag a flaking fire hose to the forward mount. Foam bubbling in desperate ropes across white deck paint, now striped with black. A petty officer crouches and sprays foam into a crooked wound in the deck where the harpoon chewed steel. Sparks bounce, he keeps spraying. The helicopter on the pad aft is half tied down. The crew chief cuts one of the tie, down chains with a grinder because the ship is listing, and if it tears loose, it will scythe the deck apart. He stands in spray and heat and remembers every training line that ever bored him. 3:30, back at 40 feet, Lark calls it in simple terms. One hit, seconder unknown, her voice trembles once and then locks down. Rook, anything from their radar, yes. Rook's eSIM panel suddenly blossoms. Tiger IV painting, they need it. His thumb flicks the Argaze cover open. Magnum, he says, and his jet shrugs as the anti-radiation missile leaps off, claws into the night at Mach and a half. It knows the taste of Tiger IV now. It runs on that scent, pattern interrupt, row friction. The neutral ship on the east is still a big rectangle. Rook sends his harm a few degrees right to keep its terminal dive clear. That increases the time of flight by seconds he can feel. Atlas, Lark, Magnum from 2, time of flight 60. Lark glances at her own harm and holds it. One harm in the air is smart. 2 is waste if the first one kills the light. Hold harpoon number 2, negative. They will clear decoys and unmask. You have one more. Put it where it hurts. The wax voice is washed in air-conditioned calm that somehow makes her angrier. 3:31, Voran's kike. Sayeg claws the CIWS feed belt straight. The amber jam light blinks off. Shield. 30 cleared, she says. The barrels spin back to life. Tiger 4 up. The dish turns toward the south. Launch Sentinel. 32 Halem orders. He's thinking mid-course active terminal, low shot. Shoot under load. I know we never do it now. Firing channel 1, missile away. A dull thump below deck. Mid-course guidance requires illumination. We have it. The east sim. Like bird leaps and flies a curved line low across the water, riding a soft radar hand. Chaff again, Halem says, and kill that forward fire. Sayeg watches a track scrolling fast. Incoming anti-radiation missile. Bearing 203, low, speed high. Halem counts his arc. Sam to kill, can we? No, it is too low at this range. Min, range gating inside 2 miles, we cannot put an intercept there. She throws her hands in an angry, controlled arc. CIWS only, then shoot, Halem says. Shield. 30 forward engages. The gun roars and the night fills with a stitched line of sparks. The Argem is not a simple radar. Seeker. It rides memory and leaps in a fragment of the radar scream. And at the last second, it sees the ship's wide chest and goes for the brightest anger. The CIWS bites pieces out of it until it is a nuclear. Hot spear that breaks in half too late. Its forward half hits the base of the Tiger. 4 dish as shrapnel. The radar dies with a white pop. Everything is now up close. 3:33, second element arrives. 2 faint shapes come screaming in from the west. Another pair of 18s, the second element, call sign Viper. press in higher to force the defenders to look up. Their plan: pull any remaining missiles and heat, then drive a cluster of chaff into the ship's path and seed the sky with decoys. Their lead voice is laconic: Viper 2 ship, Angels 500, splashing chaff, we see deck fire. Lark feels something unwinding in her chest. Not relief, the opposite: complexity, pattern interrupt, friendly friction. Viper was reported. I have a last harpoon hot, Lark says. Copy, Lark, we're up, son of you. Watch our line of fire, Viper lead says. On Voran, Saig is juggling arcs. The second SAM flies a lazy toward a chaff cloud that looks enough like a jet to be worth a shot. It explodes into aluminum confetti. The second element has split the air into illusions. Helms, steer to safe our neutral, Halem orders. He turns again, which gives his guns fresh arcs but also presents fresh plates to hit. He knows it. He does it anyway. He presses a palm to the deck rail and talks like a human to a ship. Hold, girl, just hold, 334. Friendly geometry trap. Rook has his hung store still clamped to his wing. The jet pulls left in a way he is compensating for without thinking. His Argem is gone, his harpoon gone. He is a sacrificial noisemaker now, and he knows it. He throws a ribbon of chaff, a flaring packet out of the right wing to give the enemy something to stare at. He hates the feeling that he might matter only as a false target in this second. Lark noses up 2 fingers of altitude to 80 feet, then settles back down. Seeker on, she says, flipping her last harpoon to wake up early. Manual designate. Her thumb draws a box on the UD where the frigate's mast cuts the horizon. The compute says she is at 11 miles. The minimum recommended for a low shot is 10, but the sea will eat anything it can. Pattern interrupt, fuel constraint. Joker ticks into bingo. Her die shows 2, 9. If she shoots and has to circle because of row or a misfire, she will fall below safe return. The tanker track is out of reach under the current threat picture. She has to shoot and leave, no reattack. One last run. Rook, you're my eyes on missiles, she says. I'm driving, I have eyes. He sees the CIWS trace carving the dark, the streaks of chaff drifting like ghost curtains. He sees the deck team foaming the wound of the last hit. He sees men, he swallows, I have eyes, clear, mark. Lark lights her second harpoon. It drops, kicks, and runs. On Voran, Saig feels the hair on her arms stand up. Another high-speed contact, so late in the life of this fight that it feels like an insult. Harpoon range 10 seconds to chaff. She is calling numbers again to keep her mind from doing anything else. Halem Daos, look away from the pane of glass that shows him nothing but black and spray. All stations, brace, time slows. The harpoon sees a world of decoys again. It remembers that the last time it chose a chaff cloud, it found ocean. Somewhere inside it, a bit toggles to bias for steel. It turns a fraction. The forward CIWS clears again and rips metallic daylight into the night. Tracer plows into the missile. The nose cones off. The body is still a slug at 200 meters per second. It hits the starboard bow quarter and slides up the curve of steel, tearing plates and scattering bolts like rain. Its warhead functions because it traveled its arming distance across sky and steel. It goes off outside the hull, a hug of fire that lifts air and strips paint in a long white smear. It is the difference between a hole that bleeds the sea and a wound you can bandage. It matters. The ship shakes again. Her bow sags. Her navigation light on starboard goes black. The list ticks to 3 degrees, 3:35. Internal chaos without panic. Saig's voice has gone down to somewhere calm. Fire 4, flooding contained, loss of starboard light. Weapons free remains, forward will surfaces intact. No cook off, CIWS forward green, aft 1 minute to ready. Halem allows himself one broken breath and clamps it off. Maintain course, damage control, send your best. Close every door that does not need to breathe. On deck, the petty officer with the hose keeps spraying into flames that reflect in his visor. The foam finds steel and clings. Someone taps his shoulder. He shakes his head and stays. 3:36, egress. Lark watches the white smear of impact fade behind a hill of water she can finally climb. Atlas Lark, second impact. No catastrophic kill. Fires observed. Voran maneuvering. We are Winchester on anti-ship. Atlas copies, egress south, tanker window moved, Viper covers, be advised, more emitters coming alive on the coast, 6 equivalents on scan. Don't go high, a controller says through static. Never high, Lark says, Rook on me, we're out. On you, Rook says, and as they turn south and sink back down to 40 feet, his hung store grinds a story in his head. The jet is dragging extra, it drinks more fuel, his bingo number and his gauge dance closer to an argument. He does the math again and comes out 5 pounds overdraft. He licks his lips, Lark, Rook, heavy and low on gas. Well nurse you, she says. Keep the wing light level, 337. Voran holds the line. The aft CIWS finally comes to life, its search cone spinning. The ship has 2 guns again, 1 radar down, both eyes open. Halem orders a slight counter, turn to present the sick bow less, saving the crew and the hull against the next sea wave. Captain Saig says, softer, we have wounded, minor burns, 1 serious. He closes his eyes for a half second. He opens them, med station ready, already set very well. 3:40, the fight refuses to end in a sharp line. Viper pair drags a long, dirty contrail of chaff across the sky behind the frigate, then leaves, their engines dimmed to room tone in the night. The ship's radars sweep in wide arcs without fixing anything new. Everyone trembles and acts like they don't. That's professionalism, that's the job. Lark's pair run south, past their own scent trails inside their own bang, timing. Another voice on the net yawns past them. Rescue helo launching, we have your line. Can you hold south until we push tanker forward? Negative, Lark says. We are on the line, we will be at bingo in 7 minutes. We will commit to egress. We'll talk on the way about a fuel ladder. Rook does the simple math again and hates the answer, then starts building a new profile in his head. He lowers the gear and dumps some drag because he knows hell have to lock it up on the deck early if it comes to that. He clicks his towed decoy out and lets it floss the night behind them like a silver whisper. 3:43. Back aboard Voran, the air changes for a beat. The forward fire goes from orange to dark and stays mostly out. Foam slumps like wet snow. The damage control lead hacks a hole in the deck plating where a cutout buckled, then drags a hose further aft. He slaps another hand on a shoulder, and the universal short nod says good. Halem leans over the bridge wing and watches his ship breathe. Any man who has stood on the flank of a hurt ship knows the sound of a hull that is alive. It has a slow mind. It knows what it needs. He speaks to the air. If they come back, we will be ready. Saig glances at him and says nothing. She starts tapping a checklist that sends engineers and techs where they need to be before anyone has to call. 3:45, the sea remains itself. Whitecaps run lines. A gull rides a sudden draft over rip, turns once, forgets the struggle below. A mile aft of the frigate, a floating decoy makes a slow circle, telling lies to no one now. The neutral merchant ship slides on, oblivious, its captain telling a story to a mate about fishing when he was a boy. Lark checks her fuel again and notices her own jaw hurts. Rook status, 2.9, hung store still heavy, nose once left. Im here, he says the last words like a mantra. Im here, stay on my 3, she says. Well bump the deck a hair and stretch. 3:48, pattern interrupt, a new constraint appears. A coastal battery on Redland's shore, angered by everything and not in the mood for caution, lights a fan of low-scan radar out over the water. Lark and Rook are far south enough to be noise. The battery commander sees nothing because the battery is in love with its own bright sweeps, and the bright sweeps tell it lies about range over the sea. Radar horizon don't care about anger. New emitter north, Rook breathes. Ignore, Lark says, we are beyond horizon, they do not own us. And still they fly like the edge of a blade being sharpened against a stone. 3:50, the neutral picture narrows. Voran starts a slow turn toward a rendezvous with a tug that is an hour away. Her engines keep their low, even note. A rescue helo buzzes up from over the horizon, its searchlight a faint plug in the dark. Saig pings it into the bubble, and then goes back to wiping lists on the weapons board that don't matter anymore. She writes one new thing in her head: find and fix the feed jam on the forward CIWS again tomorrow. Make sure it never happens under fire again. That is holy work. That is revenge you can live with. 3:52. Southbound jets under the world. Lark starts to feel dirt in the air dust from desert wind far off. Rook's voice now is tight again. 2.6 wire, Lark says. They both know what she means. Carrier recovery and fuel emergencies. No space for drama there. Well, get you aboard first. Copy. 3:54. Between pulses of adrenaline, there is a thin quiet. Lark lets it in for 2 breaths. She pictures her daughter's drawing again on her locker door, a big airplane with a smiley face and a sun. She decides not to think about what they just did, not yet. Thinking will walk in later in the shower when no one is asking her to push throttles against physics. On the ship they hit, Halem hangs his jacket over a chair and sleeves rolled to elbows are not in affectation. He grabs a phone and calls the deck. Good work, he says to a man who wields a hose. The man says aye. The word means much more, but they will keep it simple. 3:58. Lark and Rook hit the Marshall Point for home and see the carrier as a darker rectangle. The rescue helo ghosts past them going the other way, a white light shopping toward a place it want need to be. Good, sometimes not needing a rescue is its own song. 4:1. Somewhere behind them in a comm patch, the decoy on the water runs out of battery. It goes quiet, the sea eats it. 4:4 Atlas Lark, recovery fuel minimum, Rook is low, request straight in, cleared straight in, the ship says. Wind over deck 30 knots, altimeter 29 They take their lines, rock into it, the deck a rectangle of light that grows fast. Rook dumps more drag to keep his hung store calm. Vilso talks him down with language that tastes like old coffee and steel. He sees the lens, he rides it. He catches the wire, and the jet hits the deck with a thud that climbs his spine. He's down, Lark follows and traps. Her hook drags one wire and grips another. She stops in a violence you can't harness. She breaths, she smacks the canopy rail once. It is not a ritual, it is something else. Back in the Gulf, RNS Voran holds the bow into the swell, and the sky gets that shade of black that tips toward blue. Men unstrap masks with hands that suddenly remember they are fingers. Saig writes a note on her pad in handwriting that surprises her with its care. CIWS feed roller no. 3. Replace. She underlines it twice. Halem looks out. He is not thinking about medals or orders of the day. He is thinking about a feed roller. He is thinking about a radar that needs a clean bus and a power supply that doesn't spike. He is thinking about the fact that his ship got punched and did not lie down. Dawn is another constraint. It will show everything as it is. And elsewhere, someone who moves pieces on a map will draw a line and call it a lesson. They will say Naphov, the sea ingress radar horizon forced min, range lockouts exploited. They will be right. They will miss something. What they will miss is how often this night could have gone the other way. 4:6 Flight deck. Carrier Atlas. Rook's jet rolls slow with a crooked gait, the hung harpoon dragging the right wing like a weight on a swimmer's ankle. Vilso's voice is still in his ear, a ghost from seconds ago. Keep it straight. Do not cross the foul line. Park him cold. Deck crew in red shirts wave wands in tight, cautious arcs. Master arms safe, Rook says, and his right hand flips switches in sequence. The missile is still a live thing under his wing until a human puts metal through the red tag that says safe. He can't see it from the cockpit. He has to trust. Pattern interrupt. A yellow-vested director stabs 2 fingers at his eyes, then points to the deck. Hot brakes. The wheels glow a dull cherry. A gust shoves a white gust of steam off them in the cool pre-dawn air. The ordnance team stays back because a hung weapon is a rule that says do not approach until told. The red shirt chief makes the sign for engine stay running and do not move. Rook nods. He stays very still. Lark taxis behind him with her canopy cracked and her breath slow. Her jet is clean now. She parks on the next spot, aligned with the yellow lines like a surgical tool on a tray. She can feel the ship under her. The deck pitches 2 degrees into swell. Rook, she says on a private net. You good. Im fine, he lies. His thigh hums where it slammed the console on the trap. He looks at the right wing and tries not to see the harpoon as a bomb with a personality. It's just a machine. It's an error state. Deck control calls over local. EOD rolling. All hands clear red spot 3. Clear. 2 ordnance techs and an EOD. Petty officer in a gray suit pad up to the right wing. They are calm in a way that steals fear from the air. One raises a hand and touches nothing. He just looks. He checks the pigtail that feeds the missile's brain with the jets. It is plugged. He checks the safety tag. It is out. That is why you do not trust a tag more than a human at arm's length. Back on, he says to his partner, plug is live, well pull station power and physically safe. Pilot, keep master arms safe. Do not touch anything. Copy. Rook says, and it comes out a little too fast. The EO'd petty officer reaches in with a tool that looks like a farmer's hook, not an elegant thing at all. He uses it to pull the breaker on the pylon. The weapon's small status light drops from green to dead. The petty officer slides a steel pin through an open hole on the missile's fuselage and a second on the pylon itself. Two pieces of metal that keep the world from becoming a headline. He tags both with bright flags that slap in the wind. Station safe, he says to the chief. We have a short on the pigtail. Well need to panel in place. We're not moving him with juice on that line. Do it, the chief says. He puts his hand flat against hot metal for a second anyway, like a person patting a dog. She's a good old boat, he mutters to nobody and grins because he said it about a jet. 4-7, RNS Voran, forward deck. Foam slumps into a pool that looks like the surface of the moon. The hole where the harpoon clawed through sits like a mouth full of broken steel teeth. Smoke coasts up in a tired curve. A seaman with his mask on kneels and uses a hand lamp to look under a fold of twisted plate. He freezes. Sir, he calls to the petty officer. I see debris, warhead fragment, still hot. He doesn't have to say the words unexploded because they taste bad when said out loud. The petty officer eases the hose aside and leans in. A conical piece of nose fairing is wedged between lip and deck beam. It is not the warhead, it is a faceplate. It is sharp and nothing more. He breathes out, scrap only, good eyes. He reaches in with heavy gloves and eases the piece aside. It clatters, innocent now. Pattern interrupt. A different sound intrudes. A high whine, not of jets, not of guns. A helicopter, it comes in nose, high from the north, the rescue bird called Guardian 1. It pitches in a cautious circle over the aft deck. Guardian 1 Voran, deck is green aft, foam on forward, smoke light, winds 10 knots from west, list 2 degrees port. Are you able to land? Saig reads the numbers like a recipe. Voran, Guardian 1, we can't attempt to hover and hoist, the pilot says. Your deck looks slick. We can't keep rotors off the foam. He is watching the hose team spray. His gut says a landing on wet deck is a way to break your neck. The hoist is safer, it will swing, but it will work. Hoist approved, Halem says. He strides to the aft rail below the flight path and watches men lay down a stretcher. Medics bring the seriously burned sailor from the foredeck. He is awake. He shakes his head once like he is trying to dislodge stubborn water from his ear. He tries to stand, they stop him, he lets them. A cable blurs down, the basket comes with it, its ribs shining. Basket ready, a crewman shouts, but it's not needed. Everyone is already moving. 4-9 flight deck. Atlas, Rook keeps his hands on his knees and watches the EOD open a panel on the pylon. Inside are wires and a small gray connector like something from an old stereo. The petty officer nods to himself, pulls a tool and clamps the errant line. He twitches once and smiles. Found it? He unplugs the pigtail with the care of someone diffusing a memory instead of a bomb. He coils it and tapes it to itself. Hard safe, he says to the chief. The chief raises a flat palm, holds, then does a small circular motion. The signal for breathe, the ordnance team moves like dancers practicing a slow step. Nobody runs, pattern interrupt. Deck control calls a code over the speakers, fuel vapor onto. A refueling hose on the other end of the deck spat a little flare of fumes. Not fire, not drama, but everyone's ears prick. Every ordnance switch stays cold. One thing touches another too often at sea. They clamp the leak and flush the space with air. Pilot the red. Shirt chief says, craning his neck. We're going to chalk and tow you off. Do not shut down yet. Brakes are still hot. He points, and the yellow tractor grumbles forward in tiny inches. Rook nods and sees sweat drip onto the edge of his kneeboard. He hopes nobody is watching that. 4-10. Guardian, one's hoist line hums, the basket bobs, a deck, and in a bright green shirt grabs the frame once, twice. Neva wraps fingers around a wire and guides it down. The medic loads the burned sailor in with hands that touch only where there is cloth. The man squeezes the medic's forearm once and lets go. He's saying thank you with that muscle. Up cable, the helo crewman calls, the words dragged out by the blades. The basket climbs, it sways away, swings back. The rotor wash overturns a foam puddle and slaps white wavelets across the deck. Men in flash hoods lean into it. The basket rises past rail, past lifeline, into the belly of the helo. Guardian 1, one aboard, next, the pilot calls, negative, we can't handle the rest, Sayeg says, checking her list. Minor burns will stay, Sirius goes. She marks a box on her tablet with a stylus that squeaks. It feels obscene that something could be this mundane in this moment. It also feels good. Pattern interrupt. Engineering calls up with a voice like a sled over gravel. Captain, seawater main forward is ruptured. We are losing pressure to the fire main up front. Reroute through starboard loop, Halem says without thinking. Kill non-essential cooling to conserve. He catches the eyes of the damage control officer. The deco is already on the ladder, going down, because water is pressure and pressure is life. 4:12. Above them, Viper 2's ship pulls out to sea. They drop last packets of chaff like the tails of ghosts and go quiet. The sky in the east is 2 shades lighter. Atlas, Viper, off station, no further shooter threats. Day limited by light. We saw 2 impacts, one heavy, one glancing. Target under control. Atlas copies. The controller's voice softens. Come on home. 4:14. Kike Voran. Sayeg's hands move through old analog muscle memory. Circle damaged systems on a paper silhouette of the ship. Draw a line where a bulkhead took a hit. Scribble the words boundary cooling set. The digital clones of these exist, but the paper version is the one your brain hums to under this kind of stress. Isam, Halem asks, coast emissions fading, we are under their line, Falcon Eye in limited mode, keep chatter low. Sayeg tosses an eye toward the back console where the eSIM tech holds a mug with both hands and looks at the world like he wants to smell it for lies. He shakes his head once, quiet, Halem nods, quiet isn't peace but it is shape. 4:16, flight deck again. The tractor groans and pulls Rook's jet gently backward. The ordnance team walks with a hand on the wingtip and a hand on the tow bar like priests at a funeral. The hung harpoon looks less dangerous now with safety pins like earrings. It is still the center of everyone's attention until it is under cover. Pattern interrupt. The carrier rolls and the crane arm over a few spots sways in a dangerous slow arc. A deck boss lurches forward and slaps the hydraulic stop. The arm gives up its swing. A moment passes where the wrong things could have touched, and then they don't. The boss grins at nobody. He benches a joke. Nobody laughs because they will later. Lark pops her canopy all the way and breathes in air that tastes like hot paint and ocean. A green-shirted maintainer jogs up her ladder and leans on the cockpit lip. He points at her, then at a steaming cup he brought from nowhere. Coffee. She nods like he just gave her a gift from a god. She sips. It tastes like tar dragged through a sock. It might be the best thing she's ever swallowed. 4:20, below decks Voran. The deco squeezes through a gap where a bulkhead warped a fraction. They call the compartments by letters that are older than any of them. Smoke curls with the board cat's lack of urgency. The fire main forward drips. He signals for a wrench and a gasket with 3 fingers, quick. A junior sailor hands them to him without being asked. Pump 2 take, the deco says into a throat mic. Shift load, we have pressure downstream now. He taps the pipe and hears it ring. He smiles, like music. Above, Halem hears the words and the little coil of tension under his sternum unwinds a notch. Very well, keep it that way, pattern interrupt. The forward CIWS shows another fault code. Sayeg frowns. It's not a feed jam this time. It's a servo warning that could be a salt spray intrusion. She logs it for later. Later is a lie they tell to keep moving now. She writes anyway. She underlines again. Servo motor inspect 4:24. Atlas ready room. Lark sits with her helmet on the table, hair matted in a dark braid that sticks to her neck. Rook sits 2 seats over with a bottle of water he keeps forgetting to drink. The ready room smells like wooden armrests and Sharpies. The debrief starts with the thing it always starts with. Tapes and geometry. Play it, the mission commander says. The big screen glows a green line of their track at 40 feet. The numbers scroll, no climb. He reads under his breath and smiles reluctantly because he had told them that 20 times and they did it. Pattern interrupt. Row slide pops. The ship's eyes overlay shows the neutral merchant ship in the risk corridor. We were inside their line, the EMC says. Good delay on seekers. Saved a lawsuit. He points his stylus at Rook's harm flight path. And this cut to the right to clear the neutral. It cost time. It still made the dish. Good call. Rook nods once. His shoulders drop a millimeter. What bit you? The EMC asks Lark. What we didn't brief. See state, she says. Her jitter eye went manual twice. The picket to the west. It felt close. And flares from the helo glow. We almost had him in our lane. Almost is where we live, the EMC says. He writes Il Lanico on his tablet. He taps it 3 times as if it will sink in faster. 4:26. Halem stands on the bridge wing. Dawn pulls a gray line between water and sky. He can see everything now, and also not enough. The damage is a long, shallow smile on the starboard bow. Steele is grinning back in a way that makes him angry at the poetry of a shape. The tug is on the radio, a square little voice with a local accent that sounds like a different calendar. Voran, this is Tug Halcyon, 30 minutes to your position. Well, hold you steady on starboard bow, and you can keep your own way. How bad is it? Halem presses the transmit button with his thumb as if he is pushing a bruise. We are intact. We will take your line and bless you for it. He lets go. He looks at the water. Flying fish flick once. The Gulf forgets quickly. Pattern interrupt. A sailor on the foredeck slips on foam and catches himself on a stanchion. He laughs at himself and looks up to see if anybody noticed. A petty officer noticed. He walks over at a normal pace and speaks to the sailor in a voice the ocean can't hear. The sailor nods, he slows, he respects the deck. 4:28, ready room again. The engineers from Lark's squadron bring in a blackened roller from the CIWS, the ship Hypno. That's wrong, ships don't share parts at sea. She looks and realizes it's their own forward guns training model roller, scored as a teaching prop. It feels like a totem. The squadron's weapons officer taps it and looks at Lark. You saw them jam, he says. He isn't asking, he is telling himself. He writes salt feed belt on the whiteboard, message for tomorrow, push them to lube deep. Rook finally drinks some water. It tastes like warm plastic. Any tapes of the crew, someone asks, that someone refuses to think of the other side as anything but a machine. It protects him. Lark sees a flicker of figures on the deck spraying foam. She says nothing. She watches the track, not the men. That is also a shield. Pattern interrupt. The EO'd petty officer steps into the ready room and lifts his chin. Lieutenant Ellwood. Rook raises a hand. Your pylon is clear. Missile is safed and removed. We found a chafed wire that could have given you power even with your master off. Fix in work. Good trap, by the way. He turns to leave and tosses the last line like a coin. You can stop clenching now. Rook laughs once, hard, and only realizes then how his legs ache. 4:35, Voran's med bay. The wounded sailor breathes under a clear mask. The doctor checks his pulse, his eyes, the way his chest lifts. You will keep this skin, he tells him, and the sailor nods like the ocean told him a joke. The rescue helo banks away from the ship toward a hospital on land. The flight surgeon, sitting next to the wounded man, stares out the window and watches the wake fall away into lines that make note. Paper of the Gulf. Halem writes his initial report to his squadron leader in 8 sentences that feel like a prayer hidden inside a memo. Engaged by cease skimming missiles. 1 hit forward deck, 1 deflected. Fire controlled. SAM expended sparingly. CIWS jammed, briefly cleared. Argem hit fire control radar. Radar offline. No loss of ship. Casualties. 3 wounded, 1 serious. Request tug support. He erases 2 adjectives and sends it. 4:38, debrief Atlas. Strategic note, the mission commander says. He never says those words lightly. They kept their radar down until the last minute and forced us blind until we were in their house. We exploited radar horizon. We exploited min range gate. We exploited reboot delay. They exploited row with neutrals in our fuel window. Next time they move the helo sooner. They'll walk their chaff differently. We'll see more decoy boys. Expect servo health checks on CIWS to be the first thing on their board tomorrow. Lark listens and writes while the room hums. The battle is not where you think it is. It is in this, these lists, these underlines, these grudges carried on to checklists. 4:42. Halem walks forward to the spot where steel tore. He kneels and puts his hand on the cool, pitted plate. He feels nothing except texture and the faint vibration of a ship that has decided to go on. His breath makes a small fog in the morning air that smells like soap and fuel and sea. He has never stopped loving this smell. He stands, Captain, CIWS says behind him. She holds a rolled sheet of paper. He recognizes his own orders in her hands. He half smiles. "We stole your shirt," she says. He looks down and realizes he isn't wearing his jacket. He left it in kike. He shrugs. "I was warm." CIWS' mouth quirks. "You are allowed." He takes the paper and reads. "We will go in under tow to Pier 3. He nods. "We will, but not because we cannot steam, because caution is a weapon too." CIWS writes that down. Caution is a weapon. She underlines it twice and half smiles at her own joke. She will pin it above her console later and pretend it is wise. It will be 4:45, shoreline. The neutral merchant captain pours a cup of tea and watches the tug cut across the gray. He says to his mate, "They fought last night." The mate nods and puts his hands on the rail. "We didn't see much," he says. The captain nods back. "Good," he says. "That is the right amount to see." Pattern interrupt. The tug radios again. Voran, Halcyon, 2 minutes, set fenders. The petty officers on Voran shout and men heave big black tires into place, connecting the high story to the low body. 4:48, Atlas, Lark alone for a minute. She takes her phone and looks at the one picture on it she never deletes. A stick, figure drawing taped to a locker. She types a line she will send when it's allowed. "Home for breakfast." She deletes it and types him okay. She deletes that and types nothing and puts the phone away. Sometimes there are no right words. Sometimes the right words are a hand on a head later in a kitchen that smells like toast. Rook stares at his hands and sees how they shake. He hides them under the table. It is a dumb move because everybody knows. A hand appears under the table, Lark's, and knocks her knuckles lightly against his. He knocks back, no words. "That's better." 4:50. Voran takes the tug's line. The tow hawser hums. The tug's engine tone changes to a grunt that says work. Voran's engines keep spinning, not pushing, but spinning the naval equivalent of idling in a car in gear on ice. A cormorant flees the bow wave and changes its mind halfway through the air. Line fast, a voice calls from the bow. "Steady," Halem calls back from a place where his voice navigates more than sound. They start to move, not fast, but forward. Everyone on board simultaneously feels the difference between drifting and being towed. It is like switching from a dream back to standing. 4:55, Atlas rises and falls like a city breathing. The deck crew secures a harpoon on a cart and rolls it under a tarp. The plane captain flips a logbook open and writes a line. The words will be turned into numbers, and the numbers into charts, and the charts into bullet points no one outside this world will ever find poetry in. Poetry is in the fact they do it anyway. In the ready room, the mission commander flicks the screen off. The hum of the projector dies. He looks at Lark and Rook and nods. "Sleep 2 hours if you can," he says. "You'll think later. You'll feel later. Right now, maintenance wants your jets and I want your bodies out of the decision loop." He pauses. "You both did the job." Lark looks at a point on the wall 3 centimeters to the left of his ear and nods. Rook says "I," because the word is shaped for tired mouths. 5-2. A gull lands on the Voran's bow rail and looks offended at what people do. CIWS grips a handrail and watches the foam peel off the ship's flank in a pattern that says the ocean is normal again. She turns to her console and begins to rebuild a weapons plan on paper. "Fire control redundancy," she writes at the top. She draws 2 boxes for 2 separate power feeds and circles the word "dirty bus." It is not her job to fix power spiking. It is her job to know it will try to kill her again. Halem finds a quiet part of the deck and pulls out his own phone. There is service now, a 3-bar sliver of civilization nibbling at the edge of duty. He texts his wife. "We had a night, we are fine." He adds a smile emoji because he knows she hates emojis and it will make her smile anyway. He pockets the phone when it buzzes back. He does look. He saves that for after. 5:10. Sun up. The Gulf turns gold where it is steel. Far out, a line of heat. Haze distorts a tanker into a hovering city. The sky gossips about birds. A young sailor in engineering climbs 2 ladders and flops on the deck next to the forward brake. He pulls his mask off and laughs because he is alive. and a little foamy, and his friend steals his hat and throws it at him. He throws it back. Someone tells them to shut up, and they do, and then grin anyway. Lark lies on a narrow rack and stares at the underside of the bunk above it. She hears the ship's voice through the frame. She thinks of the line of chaff that was almost a man, and the man with the hose that was definitely a man. She closes her eyes for 20 minutes and dreams of green screens and white smears of foam. Rook writes one sentence in his log in a cramped block hand that looks the same on page 1 and page 50. Hung store resolved on deck. He pauses, then adds good work, red shirts. He does know if that's kosher. He leaves it, 7:30. Voran slides alongside the pier in a port in Oman. The tug eases her nose in with the gentleness of a hand on a baby's back. Lines fly, cleats creak. On the pier, a yard crane stands still, a dinosaur that only wakes up for special meals. Halem stands by the brow as it comes out. He doesn't walk down it immediately. He turns and looks at the foredeck one more time. It is scabbed over with quick patches. He nods to it like to an old friend who just told a good joke. Saig tucks her notepad into a pocket and runs a hand over the CIWS cover as she passes, like a pat. "Well, fix you," she tells it. The gun ignores her with good grace. 8:15. Atlas turns into the wind again. Jets line up with their mouths open. The deck is cleaned from the chemical smells of earlier. The carrier breathes and writes its own lines on the water. The rest of the day will be a checklist. The night will be another line. Somewhere else, a different radar will decide to go quiet until it's worth noise, and someone else will ride the math inside a wave's shadow. Aftermath settles not as a drum roll, but as paperwork and quiet. By the numbers, attackers, 2 jets in first element, 2 in second. Weapons expended, 3 of 4 anti-ship missiles, 2 anti-radiation missiles, multiple chaff, 1 hung store resolved. No losses. Defenders, 1 frigate hit twice, 1 heavy deck penetration, forward without magazine, compromise, 1 glancing detonation at the bow. 1 fire control radar destroyed, 3 wounded, 1 serious, no fatalities, will surface plates intact. Aft CIWS late to the fight forward, CIWS jam cleared under fire, recovery, Guardian, 1 Medivacs 1. Tug Halcyon assists, frigate enters port under own power with tow assist. Repair estimate, weeks for the radar, days for plate patches, hours to wash the taste of smoke out of clothes. Strategic note, low level, Napov, the sea ingress forces the radar horizon to make liars of screens. Min-range gates and reboot delays are not trivia. They are doors you can kick when you cannot kick anything else. Chaff is not a cure, it is a question. Guns jam, human hands unjam them. Neutral traffic and helicopters are not background. They are constraints as real as steel. At the end, in a room with no windows, someone will highlight a line on a slide that says keep the radars cold until they can hurt you. Another line will say make them turn them on. Someone else will circle an innocuous phrase that says feed roll or no. 3. On Atlas, Lark finds the drawing on her locker, the smiley, faced jet with a sun. She adds a new sun in the corner with a dull pencil. She doesn't know why, it looks right. On Voran, Halem stops by the forward deck at dusk, when the patch glows a different color from the old paint. He runs a finger along the seam. He does not believe in lucky ships, but he believes in ships that remember. He thinks of the first line of the night, no climb, inside min range, 1 shot only. He smiles because he knows the line applies here too. No climb is a way of saying do not make yourself big. Inside min range is a way of saying make the world bend close. 1 shot only is a way of saying use what you have as if it matters because it always does. He watches the light go red on the deck. He goes inside. Duty is not a trumpet, it is a list. Thank you for hearing my life story. I would love to hear your thoughts on the decisions made in this battle in the comments below. Did the constraints decide the battle or the people? Let's meet in the comments. If you enjoyed the depth and emotion of this story, please consider supporting the channel with a super thanks so I can continue bringing you more complex family dramas and tales of comeback. Look on the screen now for another story about a quiet wife's incredible transformation, and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next one.